Media Monitoring and the SOS Coalition have approached the court to compel President Cyril Ramaphosa to appoint a new SABC board. For more on this, I'm joined by William Bird from Media Monitoring. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Has the president responded to you?
So we haven't yet approached the court. We are saying please appoint the board to prevent us from having to approach the court for some kind of relief. And the reason we're doing this is because the Parliament, National Assembly, accepted the nominations for the 8 vacancies, and they sent those through to the presidency, and it's now been 3 weeks since that occurred, and as yet we don't have a quorate board. So it's really becoming again another crisis that doesn't need to be a crisis.
Have you heard from President Cyril Ramaphosa on this request to move forward with the board?
Well, as you reported yesterday, he said, his spokesperson said imminently. Today we got a letter saying that it would be soon. So between imminently and soon and just now, or now, we don't know quite when that is. But in all seriousness, the president's role here is really to take the guidance of National Assembly and to appoint. It's not like he should be sitting thinking about it and umming and ahhing about it. The vetting has been done. We understand that from the presidency. So it's now a matter of following through and appointing the board.
Kusela Diko was saying today that this appointment is imminent. Why is there a sense of urgency as to the SABC board being quorate as we're going into elections?
So the board has been in quorate now since the start of the year, and we're in an election period. The fact that we're having to resort to legal letters, to having to say, please do this. We had to force Parliament to the Portfolio Committee to actually interview the process, to interview people, to make sure that the candidates could be nominated. These are crises that have been deliberately engineered in order to make sure that the SABC is unstable in the lead up to an election period.
When you say unstable, what do you mean?
So essentially, without a board being able to quorate, it means that there are certain decisions that the SABC can't take and certain things that the SABC cannot move forward on. We know that the SABC's financial crisis is dire, again an entirely avoidable crisis, which has been left to fester still to this day. So you have to say, well, what on earth is going on here? And the reason is if you have go into an election without a board, it may be that at the end of the election, someone may challenge the results of that election on the basis of saying the biggest public broadcaster in South Africa, we believe they may have been biased and because they didn't have a quorate board to take certain decisions. So it's that level of seriousness that we're talking about. So the fact that we're in this position where we're now less than a month away to our elections and we're still having to fight about the board being appointed really does suggest that there's something else going on here.
Okay, so you said you haven't approached the court yet. You're just threatening to do so. Now that you've gotten a response, which is the same response essentially that you've saying you've gotten yesterday, what action are you going to take to almost force the hand of the president?
So our lawyers are reviewing it, and our next lawyer's letter will be going off, if not this evening, tomorrow, and we'll wait for the presidency to respond to that. I mean, unfortunately, we don't like having to go to court. We don't like having to waste our time and energy on to some excellent legal minds to say, please, how do we get the board appointed? The fact of the matter is they've known for months that this should have happened. They've known for over a year since July that they needed to appoint board members. They've known for over a year that the SABC's financial crisis is dire, and yet still they continue to delay, deny, hallucinate. I don't know what's going on really, but it is clearly something that suggests that there's a desire to keep the SABC in a state of crisis.
What would keeping the SABC in what you call a state of crisis do, and who would it benefit?
Well, I guess that's the real question that you have to ask, isn't it? Who stands to benefit when an SABC may be open to interference? That's the question I'm asking.
That's the question I'm asking you. I'm here to ask you questions to Media Monitor and ask you what do you think is behind this, as you're very invested in.
So our belief is that there's clearly some kind of political agenda by forces to try and make sure that they're able to have some leverage over the SABC. If you have a effectively functioning independent public broadcaster, it gives you, in positions of power, very little room to maneuver. If, however, you have an in-quorate board and you have an SABC that is in deep financial trouble, it gives you a far greater leverage to negotiate and try and push through different ideas or different things, or try and suggest that you can apply pressure to people either to resign or to shift the way that they operate.
One of the things that has been taking place recently in the SABC is people saying they recognize that there is a form of independence at the SABC that perhaps hasn't been seen before,
yes,
in terms of certain incidents that we've seen with the communications minister as one example, and that seems like it's quite shored up. Would that play any role in making sure that even though there is this crisis outside, it's not a complete shambles inside, and we can say going into elections we're going to be independent and impartial?
So I think that we're very fortunate that there is a strong senior executive team that is continuing to drive this and continuing to put forward an independent and impartial and trying to live up to that. If you look at our immediate recent history, you know, up till Mr. Tlhari Motsoeneng was forced out, we did not have that situation. In fact, we had a very clear and very exact opposite situation where there was overwhelming political interference from the minister, from senior executive management level, and now we're seeing that the SABC is trying to shift that around. And as a result of that, there's a significant improvement in the quality of news and in the way that the news and issues are being reported. So it really is an astonishing thing, and certainly to the benefit of all South Africans. But again, if you leave it in a position where it is deeply financially vulnerable and where its senior leadership and the board are unable to even meet and correlate, you're exposing it to severe risk. In fact, that our election outcome may be questioned. And that's something that we can't accept in a democracy.
Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. William Bird speaking to us there. Francis, it's over to you.